In 1947, Los Angeles was the city of dreams, where Hollywood glamour promised stardom and the California sun seemed to wash away any sin. Neon lights flickered in smoky bars. Chrome cars glided down endless boulevards, and the Hollywood sign shone like a beacon calling thousands of lost souls. But behind the shiny veneer, a deeper darkness awaited. A darkness that didn't belong in movie scripts, but in the brutal reality of the streets. And it was in this darkness that the most heinous of crimes manifested. A crime that would transform a forgotten name into a macabre legend that persists to this day. This is the echo of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. Chapter 1. The City of Dreams and Shadows. Los Angeles, January 1947. World War II had ended just over a year ago, and America was living a moment of euphoria. Soldiers were coming home as heroes, the economy was booming, and Hollywood was the dream factory that fed the imagination of an entire country. But the reality of Los Angeles was far more complex than movie screens suggested. The city had swollen dramatically. War veterans seeking to restart their lives, aspiring actors and actresses with suitcases full of hope and empty pockets, con artists, hustlers, gigolos, and dreamers, all converging on this Californian Babel where the sun never stopped shining, but the shadows were as deep as abysses. The Art Deco architecture of the buildings contrasted with dirty alleys where organized crime dictated its own rules. The Los Angeles Police Department, the feared LAPD, was overwhelmed, known both for its brutal methods and its corruption-stained reputation. It was a city where everything could be bought, even the truth. In the Hollywood Hills, luxurious mansions hosted parties filled with champagne and unspeakable secrets. In the bars of Sunset Boulevard, cheap drinks and anesthetized dreams that died a little each day. And between these two extremes, thousands of people tried to survive, some doing anything to climb the ladder of stardom. It was in this setting that a 22-year-old woman named Elizabeth Short arrived, bringing with her the same dreams that thousands before her had already pursued. Elizabeth was born in Hyde Park, Massachusetts, in 1924. Her childhood was not a fairy tale. Her father, Cleo Short, had staged his own suicide during the Great Depression, abandoning the family amid debt and despair. Years later, Elizabeth would discover he was alive, living in California, a revelation that would leave deep emotional scars. Raised by her mother, Phoebe, along with 4 sisters, Elizabeth never quite fit in. She was beautiful, yes. She had hair as black as ebony, pale skin, and eyes that promised mystery. But beauty, she would soon discover, wasn't enough in Hollywood. She wanted to be an actress. She dreamed of her name on luminous signs, of camera flashes and red carpets. But Elizabeth had no talent for acting. She had no connections. She had no money. What she had was a dangerous vulnerability and a habit of getting lost in relationships with men who promised much and delivered little. It was sometime in 1946 that she gained the nickname that would immortalize her, Black Dahlia. Some say it was because of her dark hair and the black clothes she loved to wear. Others claim it was a reference to a noir film of the time, The Blue Dahlia. Whatever it was, the nickname stuck to her like an ominous premonition. Elizabeth lived a nomadic life, from one cheap hotel room to another, from one boyfriend to the next. She frequented bars where soldiers drank to forget the horrors of war. She accepted rides from strangers. She slept on acquaintances' couches. Her life was a chaotic collage of shattered hopes and small survivals. But in LA, nobody paid much attention to girls like Elizabeth. There were thousands of them, beautiful, lost, vulnerable. The city consumed them and forgot them with equal ease, until one of them became impossible to forget. Chapter 2: The Dahlia's Last Days. December 1946. Elizabeth Short was in San Diego, staying with friends. She had just ended another frustrated relationship, this time with a military pilot who, like so many others, had no intention of making serious commitments. The letters she wrote to her mother were full of well-intentioned lies. She said she was doing well, that she had prospects, that Hollywood was finally noticing her talent. But the truth was that Elizabeth was desperate, penniless, and directionless. In early January 1947, she returned to Los Angeles. She needed a place to stay, an opportunity, anything that would prevent her from returning defeated to Massachusetts. In the following days, Elizabeth was seen in various places. A witness saw her at the Biltmore Hotel, one of the most elegant establishments in Los Angeles, walking through the luxurious lobby as if she belonged to that world. She was wearing a black suit, matching purse, and that smile that hid so much disillusionment. She was seen at the hotel bar, talking with an unidentified man. Some witnesses said she seemed nervous, constantly looking around. Others said she was calm, even cheerful. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Elizabeth made a few phone calls. One of them was to her sister, Ginny. She said she was fine, that she had met someone interesting. She gave no details. On the night of January 9th, 1947, Elizabeth Short was seen for the last time leaving the Biltmore Hotel. She was wearing that same black suit. She was carrying her usual purse. Witnesses claimed to have seen her getting into a dark car, but they couldn't identify the driver or the exact model of the vehicle. And then, silence.
6 days of absolute silence.
Nobody reported her disappearance. After all, Elizabeth was the type of person who disappeared frequently, changing addresses, cities, lives. Who would miss her? During those 6 days, something unimaginable was happening. Something so brutal, so meticulous, so disturbing that when the world finally discovered it, the city of Los Angeles would never be the same. Where was Elizabeth during those days? Some theorize she was held captive, tortured, mutilated while still alive. Others believe she was killed quickly and that the killer spent days preparing the body for what would come next. What we know is that during this period, someone with medical or anatomical knowledge dissected Elizabeth Short's body with surgical precision. They drained her blood. They washed her body meticulously. And then, with disturbing care, they cut her in half, exactly at waist level. There was no rush. There was no panic. There was only a calculated coldness that suggested something far more disturbing than a crime of passion or an impulsive murder. This was something different, something planned, something theatrical. And on January 15th, 1947, the world would finally see the result of this meticulously orchestrated horror.
Chapter 3. The Horror Revealed. The morning of January 15 dawned cold and gray in Los Angeles. Betty Bersinger was walking peacefully down Norton Avenue in the Leimert Park neighborhood, pushing her 3-year-old daughter's stroller. It was a typical residential street, with modest houses and vacant lots awaiting development. At 10 a.m., Betty noticed something strange in the middle of an empty lot. From a distance, it looked like an abandoned mannequin, perhaps from a nearby department store. It was white, positioned strangely, and there was something deeply wrong with that scene. She approached, and then she saw. It wasn't a mannequin. Elizabeth Short's body was there, cut perfectly in half at waist level. The two parts were separated by approximately 12 inches. The body had been washed, drained of blood, and left in a grotesque pose, almost as if it were a display. The face had deep cuts extending from the corners of the mouth to the ears, creating a macabre and permanent smile. The body was completely clean, no trace of blood, no dirt. Whoever had done this had dedicated hours, perhaps days, to preparing the scene. Betty Bersinger screamed, pulled her daughter's stroller, and ran to the nearest house, begging to use the phone. Her voice trembled as she spoke with the police operator. "There's a body, a woman's body. She's cut in half."
Within minutes, Norton Avenue was invaded by police cars. Detectives, photographers, reporters, all converging on that vacant lot that would become the stage for one of the most infamous crimes in American history. The detectives who arrived at the scene had never seen anything like it. The brutality was shocking, but the precision was even more disturbing. There was no blood at the scene, none. The body was positioned carefully, as if the killer wanted it to be found exactly that way. A veteran detective muttered to his partner, "This isn't just a murder, it's a message." But a message about what and from whom? The initial identification was difficult. The face was mutilated. There were no documents at the scene, but fingerprints solved the mystery quickly. Elizabeth Short had been arrested years earlier for a minor drunkenness offense, and her fingerprints were on file. When the news leaked to the press, it was like lighting a powder keg. The Los Angeles Examiner was the first to publish the headline that would echo through the decades: Black Dahlia murdered. The nickname Elizabeth carried in life would now define her forever in death. And Los Angeles, the city of dreams, was waking up to discover that the nightmare was just beginning.
Chapter 4: The LAPD and the Fruitless Hunt. The pressure on the Los Angeles Police Department was instant and brutal. The Black Dahlia case dominated all headlines. It wasn't just another murder. It was the murder, the most shocking, the most brutal, the most mysterious the city had ever seen. Detectives Harry Hansen and Finnish Brown were assigned as the lead investigators. Hansen was a tired veteran with decades on the force and deep bags under his eyes. Brown was younger, meticulous, obsessed with details. Together, they would lead an investigation that would consume years of their lives and never produce a single arrest. The autopsy revealed even more disturbing details. Elizabeth had been severely beaten. There were cuts and lacerations all over her body. The cuts on the face, creating that macabre smile, were made with precision, probably with a sharp blade. The cause of death was hemorrhagic shock and cerebral trauma. But most disturbing, the body had been completely drained of blood and washed meticulously. There were no bodily fluids, no dirt, no traces of where the crime actually took place. The killer had spent hours preparing the body and then transported it to that vacant lot just for display. It was as if the killer was saying, "Look at what I did. Look at my work." The media coverage quickly transformed into a circus. Journalists surrounded the police station day and night. Photographers chased anyone remotely connected to Elizabeth. The newspapers published special editions with increasingly sensational details. And then the confessions began. In the first days after the murder, more than 50 people confessed to the crime. Men, women, young, old, all wanting their share of notoriety. A 40-year-old man entered the station saying God had ordered him to kill sinful prostitutes. A 60-year-old woman swore that Elizabeth was her rival in a love affair. A teenager confessed to impress his friends. None of these confessions had any basis in reality.
But each one had to be investigated. Each one consumed precious time and resources. While detectives chased ghosts, the real killer remained free. The phone calls began shortly after. A male voice, distorted, called the police station, laughing and claiming responsibility. The press, desperate for a story, published the calls. The killer even sent a package to the Los Angeles Examiner filled with Elizabeth's personal items: her birth certificate, social security card, photos, and a small notebook containing a list of names, a notebook full of red herrings. This only worsened the chaos. Detectives were forced to investigate every man Elizabeth had met in the months before her death. They interrogated hundreds of people. They searched every bar, every hotel, every address associated with her. They discovered that Elizabeth had a habit of lying about her life. To some men, she said she was married. To others, that she was a widow of a war pilot. She invented stories about working in Hollywood, about having auditioned for movies, about being about to sign a big contract. None of this was true. Elizabeth was just a lost girl,
trying to survive in a city that had no mercy for anyone.
And as detectives dived deeper and deeper into her life, one thing became clear. Elizabeth Short had met many people in her last months, many men, and any one of them could be the killer. But there was something else, something the detectives were beginning to suspect. The nature of the crime, the surgical precision, the meticulous cleanliness. This wasn't the work of a common criminal. This required specialized knowledge, medical knowledge. And this is where a name emerges that still causes shivers. Dr. George Hill Hodel. George Hodel was everything Los Angeles represented in 1947. Sophistication, intelligence, and a deep darkness hidden under an impeccable façade. A respected physician with a thriving practice. His mansion on Franklin Avenue, the famous Sowden House, was an Art Deco masterpiece designed by Frank Lloyd Wright's son. With its Mayan concrete blocks, secret passages, and oppressive atmosphere, the house seemed straight out of a Gothic nightmare. Hodel wasn't just a doctor. He was an intellectual, an art lover, a host of parties that brought together artists, musicians, writers, and rumors of orgies, drugs, and behaviors that the conservative society of the time would never dare mention out loud.
He was married, but his marriage was just a formality. Hodel had mistresses, extramarital affairs, and a reputation for seducing young and vulnerable women. Many years later, Steve Hodel, a retired LAPD detective and George Hodel's own son, began investigating his father. In his father's old possessions, he found a photo album. Inside, a series of black and white photos of a woman who could be Elizabeth Short, taken shortly before her death. The photos showed a young woman with dark hair, a lost look, in poses that suggested control and manipulation. And then there were the recordings. In 1950, the police had bugged the Sowden house during a separate investigation. George Hodel was being accused of sexually abusing his own daughter, Tamar Hodel, who was only 14 at the time. In the recordings, although full of static and difficult to interpret, there are moments where George appears to discuss the murder of a girl with an unidentified associate. At one point, George's voice says something like, "Suppose they do find out. I'm not afraid. They can't prove anything." These recordings were never officially used because the sexual abuse case ended in acquittal. Tamar's accusation was discredited, and George Hodel walked free. But Steve Hodel believed his father wasn't just capable of murdering Elizabeth Short. He believed his father was the Black Dahlia killer.
Hodel is the most popular suspect, but the case is a web of loose threads. There was Dr. Walter Bailey, was another physician who lived near the vacant lot where Elizabeth's body was found. He had surgical knowledge, was going through severe mental problems, and his wife was a friend of Elizabeth's mother. Had he known Elizabeth? Had she gone to his clinic seeking help? Then there was Mark Hansen, a nightclub owner and disguised pimp who allowed Elizabeth to stay at one of his properties weeks before her death. Hansen had a violent history, connections to Hollywood's underworld, and an obsessive interest in young, aspiring actresses. Had Elizabeth rejected his advances? Had that cost her life? And Robert "Red" Manley, a 25-year-old salesman who was the last confirmed person to see Elizabeth alive. He drove her from San Diego to Los Angeles days before her disappearance. Red was extensively interrogated, passed polygraph tests, and was eventually released. And the killer, whoever it was, took their secrets to the grave. But why does this case persist in our collective imagination? Why among so many unsolved murders has this one become legendary? Perhaps because Elizabeth Short represents all the lost girls who came to Hollywood seeking stardom and found only disillusionment. Perhaps because the brutality of the crime exposed the shadows that hid beneath the glamour of the city of dreams. Or perhaps because, deep down, we all want to believe that the truth always comes out, that monsters are always punished, that justice eventually prevails.
But reality is crueler. Sometimes monsters walk among us, respected, protected, untouchable. Sometimes the truth dies with those who know it, and sometimes all that remains is an echo, a silenced voice that reminds us that some nightmares don't happen on movie screens. They happen on the streets of the city of dreams. And you? What do you believe happened to the Black Dahlia? Was it George Hodel using his position and power to escape justice? Was it one of the other suspects, someone the police never investigated properly? Or was it someone completely unknown, a phantom who never left a trace? Leave your theory in the comments below.
The Unsolved Echoes exists because we refuse to let these stories fade into the darkness. If you are captivated by true crime, history, and the pursuit of justice, please like this video to share Elizabeth Short's story and subscribe to the channel to ensure you never miss an echo from another cold case that history tried to forget.